It all starts with an idea, and occasionally those little inklings can come at the most unusual times. In fact, the idea for my first book came just as I was about to fall asleep around 12 a.m. on Christmas Eve. Winter had come early that year, and it was an unusually cold one. Outside, snowflakes the size of cotton balls were tumbling from the midnight sky. I threw off the thick down comforter, sat up in the brisk bedroom air, and I thought, what if sleep was actually alive? And before you could fall asleep, you had to catch it first. I was tired and I didn't want to get out of bed and put on my moccasins, but I knew if I didn't write down my thoughts, I would probably forget by morning. Before I knew it, my body was in motion and I was grabbing my woolly slippers and shuffling down the lonely staircase to the kitchen. I was still half asleep as I made my way down the stairs, so I wasn't in the mood to search for suitable writing supplies. Opening the desk drawer, I pulled out a pen and a small slip of paper, and I scribbled down a few basic notes, just enough to jog my memory in the morning. Then I went back to bed to try to catch some real sleep. A couple of weeks later, Old Man Winter was showing no signs of letting up, as a virtual blizzard continued to rage outside. The aroma of fresh brewed coffee was calling my name from the kitchen, so I poured myself a cup of steaming hot caffeine and decided to stay inside to escape the cold. That's when it dawned on me. This is a perfect day to finish my children's bedtime story. So I grabbed my MacBook and made myself comfortable by the fire. It didn't take long for the creative juices to start flowing, and before I knew it, I had finished the story and was typing the end. Just like that, I had turned my idea into a completed manuscript. But now what? Research. Lots of research. For instance, what size will your book be? You might not think the size of a children's book is important, but it is. Studies show that a far greater percentage of moms read to their children than do dads. Understandably then, it's generally the moms who purchase children's books. Consequently, how comfortably the book fits in her hands is important. If the book is too big, it will be clumsy and difficult to hold, which will no doubt result in a few awkward reading experiences. On the other hand, if it's too small, it may appear cheap, but more importantly, it will present real challenges when attempting to read to more than one child at a time. Obviously, children's books come in all shapes and sizes. However, the shape of the book matters just as much as the size. A quick look around might suggest that publishing a simple children's bedtime story is fairly straightforward and really isn't that difficult. Then again, looks can be deceiving. Take this wall, for example. These illustrations represent over 10 months of detailed conversation in more than 40 meetings with my illustrator. When we were done, I worked tirelessly with an awesome local printer, and together, we created a full-color draft version of my book. The next day, I enthusiastically overnighted 3 wonderful copies of my freshly printed book to my publisher, only to get a heartbreaking phone call a week later that said, "Your book's illustrations have been rejected." Going back to the drawing board, we came up with the idea of introducing real children into the make-believe world of Purple Sleep. Benefiting greatly from the mistakes that we made during the first 10 months, we were able to produce the illustrations that you see on this wall in a little over 16 weeks. Although this film won't spend a lot of time on the subject of illustration, there are a few things that cannot go unsaid. Quality matters. Make sure you select someone with previous experience and make sure that you're in love with their work. If you're not, chances are no one else will be either. Now that you've finished your manuscript and your illustrations are done, what's next? Funding. Although the next 2 steps are arguably interchangeable, you have to get your funding secured before you can continue this journey. So there's certainly some strong logic that suggests secure your funding first. When I published my first book several years ago, crowdfunding didn't exist. Today, I'm working on a new book, and I'm using Kickstarter to help secure the funding. The following is a brief example from my Kickstarter video.
The Day It Rained Inside is a book about the power of imagination, written so that a younger audience can easily understand the message. It's a shocking, or you might even say an electrifying story that explains how a young man named Nathaniel...
Come on guys, play Inside today!
As I was saying, Nathaniel really wanted to play inside, but his two brothers barely noticed as they flew out the door. Now Nathaniel is left all alone as he watches his two brothers playing outside, having a great time without him. As he kneeled on the couch, he thought, if only it would rain, then everyone would have to come back inside and play with me. Gosh, I wish I could make it rain. Nathaniel closed his eyes and began to imagine a big dark cloud. It was easy. In his mind, he could already see the clouds beginning to form. Yes, this is good, but it really needs some thunder and lightning. It was working. This is exactly what he needed. Nathaniel kept concentrating, focusing, and using his very best imagination skills.
Wait, are we gonna tell the whole story right now?
You already know that Nathaniel used his vivid imagination to conjure up an amazing storm inside the house. Obviously, this is a big problem. So how does he get rid of the mess?
No, Dad, tell them to go get the book.
Okay, guys, good point. But first we have to get the book published. And that's where the fine folks watching this video come in. This isn't about simply publishing another children's book. This is about you having the opportunity to personally be a part of a new children's classic. If you will trust us with your support, I promise you, we will multiply that success with the same ambitious passion that enthusiastically fuels this story. Well, that's an example of a Kickstarter video. Basically, it's just you telling other people why they should help fund your project. Of course, people aren't going to fund your project simply because you ask them for money. Although the quality and appeal of your video is important, you must also offer incentives that will attract people to join your team. One easy example is to offer potential donors copies of your finished book. So basically, you're selling your book in advance for a discounted price. For example, if your book would have a normal retail price of $14.99, you could provide your donors an incentive discount and sell your book for a $10 donation. Additionally, you may be surprised to find out what some people will pay simply to see their name in print. Obviously, people will only want to be associated with your project if they believe it's professionally run and has a genuine chance of being successful. Once you've overcome that hurdle, you can establish a dedication page in your book to the individuals who help make it all possible. Simply put, the better and more creative your incentives are, the better your chances at getting funded. Remember, Kickstarter is a great resource, but it's an all or nothing proposition. That means your project must raise 100% of your proposed funding goal, or you don't get one single cent of the money. So be passionate, be professional, be realistic, and go get funded. We've talked about a lot of things. What we haven't talked about is actually getting published. Despite the stories that you may have heard or read about, your options for publication are pretty limited. When commenting on the Model T, Henry Ford is reported to have said, "You can have any color car that you want as long as it's black." Well, when it comes to a new author publishing their book, you can publish any way that you want as long as it's some form of self-publishing. The truth is, you have a better chance of winning the lottery than you do breaking into the market via traditional publishing. That's the bad news. The good news is that self-publishing and print-on-demand have radically changed the publishing landscape. However, everything that glimmers isn't gold, so be careful. Be very careful about the publisher you select. The majority of self-publishing sites are what's known as vanity publishing, which means you're only publishing your book to claim that you're a published author. These sites are in business for one thing and one thing only, to take your money. I think the best choice is to find a self-publisher who wants to share in your publication, a joint venture, so to speak. They provide their services, and you provide the funding, and if the book is a success, they share modestly in the profits. In other words, your publisher should have a vested interest in your success. If they can't point to numerous successful authors that have books selling at normal retail prices, don't walk away, run. Once you've found your publisher, you need to let their professional team help you design the book's cover. Because the simple truth is, books really are judged by their cover. If you don't have a cover that's current, fresh, and attractive, more than likely your book is going to get overlooked. Well, I hope I've answered a few of your questions and at least given you a pretty good starting place on where to begin. Today, more than any time in recent history, publication is within your grasp. So seize the opportunity.
and become a published author.